I was a bit hesitant to make this video because it deals with feminist non-fiction. And as we all know, nothing attracts hatred online like a woman with opinions. Using the word feminism in a video title is like holding up a light to attract all the moth trolls. So I'm here to talk about some of the women who have stuck their heads out and talked about women's rights and written books recently. All of these texts have been published in the last 3 or 4 years, and I've read them within the past 2 years. I'm interested in looking at how they interact with each other, how they sort of bounce off each other and form part of the larger feminist conversation. The first is Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. This is Lean In for Graduates, which is a newer edition. The original Lean In was targeted towards women in the workplace who are wanting to get ahead. Sheryl Sandberg talks about her difficulties, particularly regarding children, equal pay, and the myth of having it all. The main criticism of this book is that it's quite a selective type of feminism. It's really just targeted at women in the workplace, and for the most part that does mean usually white women in the middle class. Next up there's Caitlin Moran's How to Be a Woman. Caitlin Moran's way of tackling feminism is with humour. This is part memoir, part feminist manifesto. It talks about a lot of the things that women deal with and don't really talk about. The names of the chapters are quite hilarious. I become furry, I need a bra, I encountered some sexism, I get into fashion, and my particular favourites, why you should have children and why you shouldn't have children. So Caitlin Moran's tone is very fun and chatty. She talks a bit about the history of feminism and also where she thinks feminism is going at the moment. I definitely recommend this one for anyone who's not quite sure on the definition of feminism, whether or not they are a feminist. This is a great introduction. Some of the criticism of this book is that it's not all-encompassing. It doesn't talk about race very much, but Caitlin Moran does talk about class and growing up poor. To tackle the race issue in feminism, we have Roxane Gay's Bad Feminist. This is an excellent set of essays. There's an essay on the Hunger Games, she talks about 50 Shades of Grey and Lena Dunham's Girls, but there are also some more personal essays on topics such as eating and sexual abuse. I particularly enjoyed her short essay, How to Be Friends with Another Woman, which is basically a list of the do's and don'ts. There are a few lines in here that are particularly interesting. If you are the kind of woman who says, I'm mostly friends with guys, and act like you're proud of that, like that makes you closer to being a man or something and less of a woman, as if being a woman is a bad thing, it's okay if most of your friends are guys, but if you champion this as a commentary on the nature of female friendships, well, soul search a little. She does write with humour, but she also talks about some very important things, and I think this is a really significant set of essays. She doesn't hold back from criticising other feminists though. She talks about both Sheryl Sandberg and Caitlin Moran and how they are limited in their feminism. There's a whole section on race and gender, which is something that mainstream feminism overlooks. If Roxane Gay is the champion of race in feminism, then Laurie Penny is the champion of class. Unfortunately, in many cases, it does seem that those two things are very closely connected, so there is some overlap in these two books. So this is Laurie Penny's Unspeakable Things, and I'll just read you the first paragraph. This is not a fairy tale. This is a story about how sex and money and power put fences around our fantasies. This is a story about how gender polices our dreams. Throughout human history, the most important political battles have been fought on the territory of the imagination. And what stories we allow ourselves to tell depend on what we can imagine. She then goes on to say, this is a feminist book. It is not a cheery instruction manual for how to negotiate modern patriarchy with a sassy wink and a thumbs up. It is not a charming, comforting book about sex and shopping and shoes. I am unable to write such a thing. I feel like that really is a reference to Lean In and to some extent Caitlin Moran. Although she does reference Moran in this essay as well, talking about her litmus test of sexism and asking, do the boys have to do this? This is a feminist book, but it also talks a lot about class and also about gender politics in general. There's a fantastic essay in this called Lost Boys. It talks about modern masculinity, about lad culture, and how it feeds into gender violence. Penny doesn't blame men, and she recognises how we all need to work together to solve this problem. The essay on cyber sexism, I think, should be compulsory reading for any person using the internet today. In this, she also talks about geek culture and how she created herself as a manic pixie dream girl. If you're not familiar with that term, I'll put a video down below that is about that trope. I haven't heard enough about this book. The wonderful Lena at Just Kiss My Frog talked about this in a video, which very much encouraged me to buy it because I had seen it in the bookshop. But there's so much discussion to be had about this. I want more people to go out and read it. Laurie Penny is an absolute marvel. She's obviously highly intelligent and is also incredibly passionate about the topics that she writes about. Finally, I have Not That Kind of Girl by Lena Dunham, the creator of the HBO series Girls. I listened to this one as an audiobook, so I don't have a copy to show you, but I will link it in the description. Now, obviously, Lena Dunham comes from an incredibly privileged position. Both of her parents are successful artists, and she knows a lot of influential people. This is a collection of personal essays that makes up a memoir, basically. There's been quite a bit about it in the media lately, especially the part where she talks about her experience of being raped and about the fact that she didn't realise that it was rape at the time. She talks about being an unreliable narrator and how her thoughts and feelings towards the event have changed over time. She writes very candidly about her obsessive compulsive disorder as well as her struggles with eating. Issues surrounding eating and eating disorders come up with all of these books but Lean In. And I think that goes to show that it is for the most part a women's issue, whether it's comfort eating or eating disorders. I am aware that this isn't exclusive to women though. Caitlin Moran calls for women to be more open about eating for comfort. Roxane Gay talks very openly about how she has struggled with eating and overeating and how she went to fat camp when she was a girl and how that affected her. Laurie Penny talks about her struggles with anorexia, and Lena Dunham talks about her ongoing relationship with food. In fact, one of Dunham's essays is drawn almost exclusively from her food journal from a couple of years earlier. It shows how she obsessively wrote down exactly what she ate and the number of calories. In the end, she comes to the conclusion that diet is a four-letter word. And I think Moran, Gay and Penny would agree. I think that goes to show that overeating and undereating are things that we really need to discuss more. And I don't mean just talking and reading articles on how awful anorexia is or on the dangers of being fat, but how it really is a social issue. It's a class issue, it's a race issue, it's a gender issue. So all of these books are in different places on the feminist spectrum, from Sheryl Sandberg's fairly limited viewpoint to Laurie Penny and Roxane Gay's much more radical feminism. I think they're all worthwhile books, but they all contain their own issues. What all of these books do agree on though is that there is a problem and we need to do something about it. It would be unwise to read just one of them without understanding the broader context in which they fit. So please let me know, have you read any of these books? What are your thoughts on them? Are you encouraged to now go out and read any of them? I think reading feminist non-fiction is a good place to start in the conversation. I'll put links in the description for all of these books so you can check them out yourselves. I plan to be back before too long to do another discussion on feminism in fiction. Once again, thank you for watching and bye.